Hey guys, Mr. Possible here, back for video number 2 of the day. Again, we're doing that video when it's most uncomfortable for me, when it's not planned as it is in the morning after my workouts. And today I'm just going to talk about my day and what's going on. So today I'm going to my eye doctor to get the test for my bioptic telescope lenses. This is a real fun. It's a lot of red tape. I made this appointment a while ago. I had to go through several people and talk to people and ask them about it because there's no bioptic telescope screener that I know of in West Virginia where I am. So it was a lot of fun to go through that. Sarcasm ended. So what I wanted to talk about is just driving in general. So as I've said many times before, my name is Mr. Possible. I will be a I will be a professional poker player within 4.5 years. I was raised in Honolulu, Hawaii, and Waianae, Hawaii. I know it sounds like a real hard time there, Ted. I am an albino. I burn in the sun. I have visual problems because I have what's called ocular albinism. And I was told at a very young age by many eye doctors, people I respected, that I would never drive because of my eyes, because I have a deformity in my eyes that cannot be corrected, both myself and my sister. So one day I talked to my sister and she's like, hey, there's this new bioptic telescope lens, thing where you can drive. And that's pretty much all I heard. And so the dream was, to be able to drive. And actually for me, the biggest dream was up until 27 years old, I had to hire people to drive me, depend on other people to drive me. It's very frustrating, especially when you're a CEO of a company that's doing really well and you have to depend on someone else. And, I'm a very independent person. So that was very difficult for me. Boo-hoo, Ted, right? You were the CEO of a company. But it was stressing, to get to meetings on time, and I was dependent on other people's accountability rather than my own. So as soon as she said to me, 27 years old, I'm like, sign me up. What do I have to do? And pretty much what I had to do was I had to fly to California and meet a guy for the first ever bioptic telescope lenses and get the prototype. And to which he said, by the way, and you guys may find this funny, you may find it alarming, but he actually said to me, okay, now that you have the telescope lenses, because you have ocular albinism and you don't have cataracts or glaucoma, you shouldn't even wear your glasses because they're dangerous. I can't make this stuff up, people. That literally happened. World-renowned ophthalmologist. This is the instructions he gives me. Anyway, so I have to get these bioptic telescope lenses, and then I happen to be living in the worst state in the country to get a driver's license, in my opinion, which is Virginia. They have one of the most rigorous driving tests in the country. And I had to have a special instructor because I had bioptic telescope lenses to, literally monitor my every move. They're wanting to kill my ability to drive. So before I even got my permit or anything else, I was already planning. How am I going to go to California to get the bioptic telescope lens? I breathed it every single day how I was going to be able to drive. It was like the biggest dream ever. And for those of you out there who are trying to do something that is possible, that is the way it has to be. It has to be the first thing when you wake up and the last thing on your mind when you go to bed. And that's what it was for me driving. So I did sign up for the bioptic telescope lens program in Virginia. And before that, I had, I was the CEO of a hosting company. So I had some employees that taught me how to drive. And I'll never forget it because these employees were quite aggressive drivers. I was terrified out on the road for the first time when I was driving in, traffic. But it did not deter me. I was absolutely determined to get a license. And I would drive every single day as much as I could to get over that fear. I did it afraid constantly. And when I got my permits, I took a friend with me before I get my license because my father said, and my father, I will talk more about him in the future, but my father was an retired Navy guy. So if you dropped an ice cube on the floor, you were in some deep crap. I mean, there was going to be a lot of problems. So my father had very high expectations, and he also put a lot of limitations on me. While my mother instilled in me, you can do anything you set your mind to, it's possible. My father said, there are limitations. You're blind. You'll never play football. You'll never drive. You'll never go to college. You'll never, there was just all kinds of limitations. You can never be successful. You need to, go on government SSI. All of those things my father believed. Whereas my mother was like, you can do anything you set your mind to. And that was our core growing up. That's all we heard. If you can set your mind to it, you can do it. So thanks, Mom. So the plan was, once I got my license, because as a child, I shouldn't say as a child, I was 27 years old, but as a, immature adult, my goal was to prove to my father, who I had on a pedestal, that I could do it. I would drop checks that I was making around him so that he would be proud for me. My entire life revolved around getting his approval. So the whole plan was, as soon as I got my license, I was going to take my father, who was invited to a wedding of my cousin in Boston. So I was going to drive him from Corbin, Kentucky to Boston. So I first have to drive to Corbin, Kentucky, and then all the way back to Boston. And the way I do things, anybody who knows me, is I like to measure many and cut once. So when I did get my permit, I had my employee come along with me, and we did a trip through New York. I mean, I wanted the hardest route. I wanted every obstacle in my way. I wanted to make sure that I just was hit with whatever could come my way, because I knew my father, it was going to be a huge deal, anything, So we went, to New York on a trip overnight, stayed in New York, but I drove in New York, so it was quite the experience. But I was very persistent. I was constantly studying the driver's ed test, the practice online. It was, an everyday thing. I wanted to make sure that there was nothing that was going to stop me, nothing that was going to get in the way. And I always in the back of my mind knew that things could come up, parallel parking. What if I don't park right? License to Drive came through my head. I don't know if you guys saw that movie, but in the 80s, License to Drive, where he's trying to drive and not spill the coffee. There was just several things that were always in my mind, and I was always preparing for them. So I did get my license, which was phenomenal, and I did drive my father all the way to Boston. Well, I drove to Boston. That's a funny story. My father was notorious for throwing me out of the car or abandoning me somewhere, and in this particular situation, he got out of the car. And I waited a little while, couldn't find him, and I drove to Boston. So he ended up having to fly, and all of his relatives made fun of him. So there was a little bit of, kickback for him on that. So today, I'm making, I've been driving since I was 27 years old, fine, with bioptic telescope lenses. But every time I switch states, it's a major ordeal that I have to go to a special organization or an ophthalmologist to get the test. And the test is just the first part. I have to get this test, then I have to go to the DMV. And then, I don't know whether they're going to give me, I don't know West Virginia's laws. I've looked into it a little bit. But my vision, because I had surgery on my eyes, is corrected to where I could drive during the day without bioptics, but I might need them at night. But I can tell you this. My expectations, and this is 100% all of the time, and I highly recommend it for anyone who is trying to do the possible, which other people think is impossible, is to expect the worst. Plan for the worst. So I plan to run into a doctor who doesn't know what he's doing, misdiagnoses me or doesn't understand bioptic telescope lenses. This has happened. Or, I'm sorry, I can't give you that because, whatever this is, I'm fully prepared for all of those things. And then after I go and possibly get this, the approval, the stamp of approval, I'm then prepared to go to the DMV and some other thing come up. I just moved to West Virginia. I bought a house in West Virginia. But there's any number of things that could come up. I don't have the right driver's license. I don't, whatever it may be. I'm prepared for it, and I have already accepted that this may not go the way that I want it to go. And I think that's very, very impossible. This is pro tip from Mr. Possible. Expect the worst. Whatever you think is going to happen, expect the opposite. And the reason you do this is so that you do not attach yourself to an outcome. And I'm going to do more videos on attaching yourself to an outcome because it's a big deal. You should not want to attach yourself to an outcome. It involves your emotional brain, and you're not, using your logical brain. And you need your logical brain to do the possible. You do need your emotional brain. Your emotional brain needs to be the one saying, rah, 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 you can do it, and overwhelmed with whatever dream it is that you're trying. So, it's very important to just expect it, right? When I go into any situation, I expect the unexpected. And I think it's very important for those of you trying to do the possible. So let me try to relate that to you. It's driving for me, but hey, say you're trying to lose weight. And first of all, it's a really bad term because you're not really trying to lose weight. You're trying to lose body fat. There's a big difference between trying to lose weight and trying to lose body fat. Some of that weight could be muscles. It could be, there could be stuff going on in your body hormonally that you do not know about, whatever. So one of the things, you might do if you're trying to lose weight is you go on the scale every day and you're not going down, or you're fluctuating, or, it's just not going the way you want. And my expectation from that would be, well, first of all, I need to make sure I'm measuring the right thing. I expect it to go up. Or if it drops really fast, I know that's, just water weight I'm losing. But I expect those differences. I don't expect it to go perfect. And I think that's a mistake that people make when they're trying to do the possible. So I hope that helps you. I hope you can apply that to your life. I'll give one more example. In my divorce, when I got divorced, I took a parenting class. And parenting class it's a co-parenting class, which is basically just they're trying to get, when you get a divorce, the children to have two parents that are basically operating on, a uniform decision-making process, which, right, good luck. But one of my favorite quotes in the handbook for the co-parenting class was, do not expect your ex-spouse to be different today than they were the day before you got the divorce. So basically, a lot of people, they get a divorce and then they expect them to be different than who they are. And they're going to be the same. And it was true. It was very true. And I live by those words every day. Don't expect something to change that hasn't had a catalyst to change. And a divorce in that situation was not a catalyst to change. A catalyst to change is something you have to recognize and then make a difference about. So I'm Mr. Possible. This is video number 2. I did it. It was very awkward and uncomfortable, but I did it, and I'm sure I'll get better at it. And again, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and share. Please, I'd give anything for just a couple of questions. Like if you have questions about me growing up in Hawaii, what an albino is, whatever the questions are, please post some questions on YouTube or Facebook, wherever this is posted. And that's a wrap, guys. I'm actually going to drive to this place, and I have to do the vision screening. Hopefully they don't dilate my eyes. But I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one, and mahalo.